Okay, so I'm out here in what would colloquially be known as the middle of nowhere. And I was sort of thinking about like if I turned on my maps right now on the phone, like it wouldn't really be able to track me and give me like a map of where I am in relationship to my environment, because there's like no signal here. In other words, there's no satellite here. Okay, the sun came out, so now I'm wearing sunglasses. So yeah, I'm in the middle of nowhere, and the reason the map can't really give me it can't give me my precise location is because it needs a satellite in order to pinpoint where I am in relationship to where my phone is. So then I was like thinking, sort of like trying to like conceive of a way that my phone would be able to track my location without requiring a satellite. And I was like trying to work that out in my head, like, well, how would that work? There's like nothing tracking me except my phone itself would have to somehow know where I am in relationship to my environment, and just by itself it wouldn't be able to actually do that. It would just I'm like trying to like put into words like why that doesn't work. I'm sort of failing to find words for it. I just know that it can't know my location without a second point of reference. So that got me thinking about how in order to know where anything is, or to even know if something is moving or not, you have to have two things, at least you have to have a minimum of two things. You have to have two things that are in relationship with each other to be able to tell if there's movement and the direction of movement. And without a second, if you're just like, if there's just one planet in the universe, in the vacuum of space, there's no conceivable way of knowing if that planet is moving at all. It could be moving in any direction, but it would just seem like it's sitting still because there's no subject-object relationship. There's no other thing to reference whether or not this object is actually moving in what direction it's moving in, because there's that can only be determined by a second thing. So so my location is only becomes a location when there is a second thing that is observing my location. Otherwise, there's no possible way of tracking where I am. And so then I started to think of this in more like spiritual, sort of metaphysical terms. It's like when there's two things, a decision can be made. When there's a minimum of two choices, left or right, you can choose to go left or right. If there's only one road, there's the only direction is forward. And so there's no choice to be made. So it doesn't matter, if you're going into heaven or you're going into hell, the only place to go is forward. And, you kind of have to go without being able to really make a choice. I mean, you could get complicated with this and say, well, you could walk backward or you could stand still, but let's say that you can't, go backward and you can't stand still. You can only move forward. And you live in a world where your only, choice is to move forward. Hence, you have no choice. So it really doesn't matter if you end up in heaven or hell, because you're just being propelled forward. So then I was thinking about, okay, so now you have a choice. You can move left or right, and left, leads you into hell, and then right, leads you into heaven. And then, now you have a choice, which is interesting to me, because, on the face of it, it's like, why would you choose anything other than heaven, Well, the strange thing is it seems like most people here on earth, they choose to go into hell. And, they choose paths that lead to pain and suffering, essentially. And even when we sort of try to choose to go into heaven, we sort of end up in hell a lot of the time, And so it's almost like there's only one fucking direction sometimes, and that direction is into hell. Because like whatever heaven we find is like a temporary heaven. And so, it's like pleasant for a while, but then, pain, suffering, death, disease, all that shit, it's like, it finds us whether we, no matter where we try to hide from the world. But, so we have this sort of relationship between heaven and hell, and so that means that we feel like we have a choice. We have a choice to go left or right, and right, always leads into heaven, left always leads into hell. And so there's like this appearance of choice, that we have somewhere to go and that we have a choice to make. And often, the choice, the choice is sort of like what the painful part, It's like we have to think about like, well, I really want to go into heaven, but I want this fucking, I want to eat this like 5-gallon container of ice cream. Because heaven is really far away and this thing of ice cream is like really close. And you sort of know like what leads, where the ice cream bucket leads, it leads to a bellyache and indigestion. And maybe, you're not going to be able to sleep as well, and you're going to, gain some weight, and then you'll look in the mirror and you're like, ah, fuck, I'm a disgusting pig. But, you choose that because you think you have a choice. And you think that there's some other path, that you could have chosen that would have made you happier, in some abstract sense, than eating the 5-gallon container of ice cream that leads you into hell. And so, there is this you that is like the satellite that is like watching you, making your bad choices. And it's saying, hey, you're going into hell. I'm over here, I'm in heaven. But you keep making these fucking shitty choices that make you sick and ill and, uglier and dumber. But, you keep on choosing that stuff. And so I was thinking, what if there is, what if you're back on the pathless road, the road without two choices, it's like now you have the 5-gallon container of ice cream, but you don't have any fucking choice but to eat it, It's almost like, the spoon is moving itself and it's shoving the ice cream into your mouth. And you're like, well, fuck, I don't even like this ice cream, but I'm eating it anyway. I can't stop it because this is the only road there is to go, and there is no heaven. There is no better place to go except right here with my fat fucking fingers eating this fucking ice cream. And then, you sort of realize that you're exactly where you are because that's the only place that you can be. And so then I was thinking, okay, so what fucking difference does it make, If you go into heaven, you're in the same place. Because the place that you are is you. If you're in hell, the place that you are is you. You can't fucking escape what you are. You can't get away from it. And so the only real destination that there ever really exists is you. It doesn't matter really what you do that is pious or like devious and destructive. You are the place that you're at, regardless of what choice you believe that you had. Because the suffering is sort of like in the belief that there was a better choice to be made than the one that you made. And you're always like looking at yourself like a satellite on the ground. You're like, okay, I'm on the ground, but I could be over there, I could be some other place than I am. And, perhaps, you are the only place that you can actually be, and there is no real movement. And so there is no real, there is suffering on the surface, but that is only an illusion, the illusion that you made a bad choice. So, making sort of peace with where we are and what we're doing, and that we are in the same location within ourselves, no matter what. I don't know. This is a fun thought exercise. I don't know if it's helpful in any way or whatever, but I enjoyed sort of talking about it and thinking about it. I'll just leave it here. Have a good one.